with Bronny, I want to clarify one thing you just said, which is Rob and I did not give Bronny anything. Bronny has earned this.
Well, I understand what everyone is going through. The boy is this community.
Hands up!
Smith kick. Bronny James off
Thursday afternoon for that play. So you hope that over that time, Austin gets that much additional time that Bronny's going to.
Bronny has earned this.
I don't think so.
With Bronny, I simply want to clarify one point you just made regarding Rob, and I did not provide Bronny anything. He has earned this. I understand the struggles everyone in this community faces. Head up, Smith kicked Bronny James off Thursday afternoon following that altercation, so you hope that during this time, Austin receives that additional opportunity as Bronny has worked hard for this. I don't believe so. One of the most forced narratives in the NBA today is the notion that Bronny James is an NBA player. The concept of him being in the league is highly celebrated and admired by fans worldwide, when, in reality, Bronny James being in the NBA is largely a PR stunt and an ego booster for LeBron James since, truthfully, Bronny is the worst player in NBA history. Rush up the court, Ron. Bronny James for 3. He was pushed that time by Bronny. Here's James all the way. You suck. Now, that statement may seem delusional or far-fetched at first glance and might come across as hate, but I assure you it's not far-fetched nor exaggerated. In fact, LeBron James is the worst player of all time. Looking at NBA history at individual seasons where players played at least 10 games, there are 23,800 such seasons. If you rank those individual years from the best PER to the worst PER, LeBron James is positioned at 22,995, placing him in the bottom 1% of NBA players in history. Consider this for a moment. Bronny James, in comparison to his fellow players right now, is statistically the worst player in the NBA based on PER. However, when comparing him to the entire history of the NBA, he still falls within the bottom 15 all-time. Examining that bottom 15, Bronny James has dropped into the rankings for worst purse of all time based on F percentage. Among these players, Bronny ranks 11th out of 12. The only player historically with a worse F percentage than Bronny James this year is Rolando Blackman from 1989, who played for the Blazers. So, to put it technically, Bronny James isn't the worst player in NBA history. He's the second worst given that Rolando shot 5.6% compared to Bronny's relatively respectable 6.3%. James, guarded by Tyson, steps back and lets it fly. Let's go home, ladies and gentlemen. Now, looking at Bronny's overall statistics, it's clear that he has been a bench warmer playing limited garbage time, yet his stats remain absolutely atrocious and surprising. Reviewing these stats, 0.3 points per game, 0.4 rebounds. 0.3 assists on very low shooting. If you observe him play on any given night, he appears to be like someone's nephew who sneaked onto the court, donned a jersey, and is playing for enjoyment. This player clearly does not belong in the NBA and does not deserve a roster spot in 2025. Once again, among competitors this season, Bronny James is definitively the worst player in the NBA when considering players this year, who take at least 15 shots every game. Bronny James stands last among 458 players with a shooting percentage of 6.3%, hitting 1 out of 16 attempts. To add to this, Adam Flagger ranks 457, being the second worst shooter in the NBA, yet he shoots 10% better than Bronny. Come on, man. If you call yourself a professional NBA player, your role involves demonstrating some offensive skills. Going 1 for 16 in shooting, regardless of minutes played, is simply terrible. This is why viewers of his G League games notice him scoring 15 or 20 points against players who might not even make it to the NBA. Meanwhile, the top talents in the G League often serve as the 10, the 11 then, and 12 then on teams. Therefore, Bronny's mild success in the G League isn't translating to the NBA. 5. Bronny James knocks applause, but he had it intercepted by counsel. Examining Bronny's G League statistics, they reflect average performance, tallying 16 points per game with shooting below 40%, struggling from 3 and the free throw line, and averaging 2.9 turnovers. While those aren't terrible figures when considering production, you're in the G League where the goal is to score, deliver numbers, and demonstrate potential for the NBA. Bronny is a player receiving the shots, minutes, and chances to perform at a high level, but the outcomes are inconsistent. Some good games, some average, and some really poor performances. This isn't meant to be overly critical, but still, the G League. You're meant to score, put up impressive numbers, and demonstrate potential. For instance, Isaiah Thomas, who was picked up off the street yesterday, scored 40 points in his G League debut. Isaiah Thomas is only 5 feet tall and hasn't excelled in the NBA for a while, but this guy, entering from the street for his first contest, resembles Allen Iverson 2.0. He struggled early in the summer, but is now bouncing back. Thomas stands out among the two-way players as he climbs up the ranks. Let's review the highest-scoring games in the G League this season. The top 5 includes Cam Spencer, who scored 51 points and was drafted 53 RD overall this year, Reed Shear with 49 points in the NBA, while averaging 3.2 points per game, Terrence Shannon, a solid college player, with 47 points in the NBA while averaging only 1.5 points per game, Bree McGowan with 46 points in the NBA, who plays just 2.3 minutes per game, and fifth is J.D. Davidson, who also scored 46 points but has only played a total of 25 games in the NBA over 3 years. My main point is clear. Players in the G League can easily accumulate points any day of the week, yet many of these NBA players serve as the 10th, 11th, or even 12th man on their teams. Therefore, LeBron James not performing at the level of those players and assuming he must be a fantastic NBA player just doesn't resonate with me. One last point I want to reiterate. If you aspire to be a role player in the NBA, to be a very effective role player, you need to possess one distinct skill or trait that sets you apart from others. Take Ricky Counts, for instance, who went undrafted last year. His standout quality is his bounce, along with impressive speed and athleticism. Similarly, Cam Spencer and Quincy Ellis shine as knockdown shooters. As for Bronny James, he scores around a D+ to C across the board, being an average ball handler, below average on defense, not a great shooter, and also undersized. That wraps up the video, and I reiterate, Bronny James is currently the worst player in the NBA, and arguably the weakest in NBA history. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.